I'm not so sure. It may take an average of 17 years before research findings make it into day-to-day clinical practice. To take one example that was particularly poignant for my family, heart disease. Decades ago, Dr. Dean Ornish published evidence in one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world that our leading cause of death could be reversed with diet and lifestyle changes alone. Yet, hardly anything changed. Even now, hundreds of thousands of Americans continue to needlessly die every year from what we learned decades ago was a reversible condition. I had seen it with my own eyes. My grandmother was cured of end-stage heart disease by one of Dean's contemporaries, Nathan Pritikin, using similar methods. She was given a medical death sentence at age 65, but thanks to a healthy diet, was able to enjoy another 31 years on this planet until age 96 to continue to enjoy her 6 grandkids, including me. So, if effectively the cure to our number one killer could get lost down some rabbit hole and ignored, what else might there be in the medical literature that could help my patients, but just didn't have a corporate budget driving its promotion? Well, I made it my life's mission to find out. For those of you who don't know my work, that's why I became a doctor in the first place and why I started my nonprofit site, nutritionfacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There's no ads, no corporate sponsorships, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything. Just put up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother. New videos and articles nearly every day on the latest in evidence-based nutrition. What a concept. Okay, so what does the science show is the best way to lose weight? If you want testimonials and before and after pictures, you have come to the wrong place. I'm not interested in anecdotes. I'm interested in the evidence. When it comes to making decisions as life and death important as to what to feed ourselves and our family, there's really only one question. Now, what is the best available balance of evidence right now? The problem is that even just sticking to the peer-reviewed medical literature is not enough, as false and scientifically unsupported beliefs about obesity are pervasive even in scientific journals. The only way to get at the truth, then, is to dive deep into the primary literature and read all the original studies themselves. But who's got time for that? There are more than 500,000 scientific papers on obesity in literature and 100 new ones published every day. But that's what we do at nutritionfacts.org. We comb through tens of thousands of studies a year, so busy folks like you don't have to. Very nice. And indeed, we uncovered a treasure trove of buried data. Like today, I'll cover simple spices proven in randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials to accelerate weight loss for just pennies a day. But with so little profit potential, no wonder these studies never saw the light of day. But the only profiting I care about, though, is your health. And that's why all the proceeds I receive from all my books and speaking engagements are all donated to charity. I just want to do for everyone's family what Pritikin did for my family. But wait, isn't weight loss just about eating less and moving more? I mean, isn't a calorie? I mean, that's what the food industry wants you to think. The notion that a calorie from one source is just as fattening as a calorie from any other is a trope broadcast by the food industry to absolve itself of culpability. Coca-Cola even put out an ad emphasizing this one simple common sense fact. As the current and past chairs of Harvard's nutrition department put it, this central argument from industry is that the overconsumption of calories from carrots would be no different than the overconsumption of calories from soda. If a calorie is just a calorie, what does it matter? what kind of foods we put in our mouth. Well, let's explore that example of carrots versus Coca-Cola. Now, it's true, in a tightly controlled laboratory setting, 240 calories of carrots, about 10 carrots, would have the same effect on calorie balance as the 240 calories in the bottle of Coke. But this comparison falls flat on its face out in the real world. You could chug the liquid candy calories down in less than a minute, but eating 240 calories of carrots would take you more than 2.5 hours of constant chewing. It's actually been tested. Not only would your jaw get sore, but 240 calories of carrots, that's like 5 cups of carrots. You might not even be able to fit them all in your stomach, right? And our stomach is only so big. Once we fill it up, stretch receptors in the walls of our stomach tell us when we've had enough. But some foods have more calories, different foods, different amounts of calories per stomach. Some foods have more calories per cup, per pound, per mouthful than others. This is the concept of calorie density. The number of calories in a given amount of food. As you can see, oil, for example, has a high calorie density, meaning it has a high calorie concentration. Lots of calories packed in a small space. So, drizzling a tablespoon of oil on a dish adds over 100 calories. For those same calories, you could have instead eaten, a couple cups of blackberries, for example, a food with a low calorie density. So these two meals have the same number of calories. I mean, you could swig that spoonful of oil down, not even feel a difference in your stomach, but eating a couple cups of berries could start to fill you up. Right? So that's why biochemically a calorie is a calorie, but eating the same amount of calories in different forms can have different effects. The average human stomach can expand to fit about 4 cups of food. So, a single stomach full of strawberry ice cream, for example, could max out a caloric intake for the entire day. To get those same 2,000 calories from strawberries themselves, you'd have to eat 44 cups of berries. That's like 11 stomachfuls. As delicious as berries are, I don't think I could fill my stomach to bursting 11 times a day. See, some foods are just impossible to overeat. They're so low in calorie density, you just couldn't physically even eat enough to maintain your weight, right? So in a lab, a calorie is a calorie, but in life, far from it. Traditional weight loss diets tend to focus on decreasing portion size, but we know these eat less approaches can leave people feeling hungry and unsatisfied. A more promising approach may be to shift emphasis from this restriction to possibly eat more messaging of increasing the intake of low-calorie density healthy foods. But you don't know until you put it to the test. And indeed, researchers in Hawaii tried putting people on a more traditional Hawaiian diet with all the healthy plant foods they could eat, unlimited quantities of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and beans. And the study subjects lost an average of 17 pounds in just 21 days. Calorie intake dropped by about 40%, but not because they were eating less food. They lost 17 pounds in 3 weeks, eating more food in excess of 4 pounds of food a day. How could that be? Because whole plant foods tend to be so calorically dilute that you can stuff yourself without getting the same kind of weight gain. They lost 17 pounds in 3 weeks eating more food. That's why in my new book, How Not to Diet, which I'm very excited about, that's why low in calorie density is on my list of the 17 ingredients for an ideal weight loss diet. Since Americans average about 3 pounds of food a day, if you stuck with mostly these foods, you could see how you could eat more food and still shed pounds. Vegetables have the lowest calorie density. And so researchers at Penn State decided to put them to the test. Study subjects were served pasta and told to eat as much or as little of pasta as they wanted. On average, they consumed about 900 calories of pasta. Now, what do you think would happen if, as a first course, they got 100 calories of salad, composed largely of lettuce, carrots, cucumbers, celery, and cherry tomatoes? Right? Would they go on to eat the same amount of pasta and end up, with a 1,000-calorie lunch, 900 plus 100? Or would they go on to eat 100 fewer calories of pasta, effectively kind of canceling out the added salad calories? No, it was even better than that. They ate more than 200 fewer calories of pasta. So 100 calories in, 200 calories out. So in essence, the salad had negative 100 calories. Preloading with vegetables can effectively subtract 100 calories out of a meal. Now, of course, the type of salad matters, right? The researchers repeat the experiment, this time added a fatty dressing and shredded cheese, and eating this salad didn't turn turn a 900 calorie meal into one with less than 800 calories. Instead, eating this kind of salad as a first course turned it into a meal with calories in the quadruple digits. It's like preloading pizza with garlic bread or something. You're just going to eat more overall. Right? So what's the cutoff? Well, studies on preloading show that eating about a cup of food before a meal decreases subsequent intake by about 100 calories. So to get a negative calorie effect, the first course would have to contain fewer than 100 calories per cup. As you can see in the chart, that includes most fresh fruits and vegetables, but having something like a dinner roll just wouldn't work. But hey, give people a large apple before a meal, that same pasta meal, rather than consuming about 200 calories less, it was more like 300 calories less. So, how many calories does an apple have? It depends on when you eat it. Before a meal, an apple can effectively have negative 200 calories. You see the same thing giving people vegetable soup as a first course. Hundreds of calories disappear. One study that tracked people's intake throughout the day even found that overweight subjects randomized to pre-lunch vegetable soup not only ate less lunch, but deducted an extra bonus 100 calories at dinner too, a whole 7 hours later. So the next time you sit down to a healthy soup, you could imagine calories being veritably sucked from your system with every spoonful. Even just drinking 2 cups of water immediately before a meal causes people to eat about 20% less. No wonder why overweight men and women randomized to 2 cups of water before each meal lost weight 44% faster. 2 cups of water before each meal, 44% faster weight loss. But, no one's going to put an ad on TV for tap water. But that's why so-called negative calorie preloading is on my list of weight loss boosters, things that can accelerate weight loss regardless of what you eat the rest of the time. Anything we can put on that first course salad to accelerate fat loss even further? Well, in my Imping AMPK section, I talk about ways to activate an enzyme known as the fat controller. Its discovery is considered one of the most important biomedical breakthroughs in the last few decades. You can activate this enzyme through exercise, fasting, or nicotine. But is there any way to boost it without the whole sweat, hunger, or dying a horrific death from lung cancer thing? Well, Big Pharma is all over it. After all, obese individuals may be unwilling to perform even a minimum of physical activity, wrote a group of pharmacologists, thus indicating that drugs mimicking exercise may be highly desirable. So, it's crucial that oral compounds with high bioavailability are developed to safely induce chronic AMPK activation for long-term weight loss and maintenance. But there's no need to develop such a compound since you can already buy it at any grocery store. It's called vinegar. When vinegar, acetic acid, is absorbed and metabolized, we get a natural AMPK boost. Now, wait a second, enough of a boost to actually accelerate fat loss with just, the dose you get dressing a salad? I mean, vinegar has been used for centuries as a remedy for obesity, but only recently has it been put to the test. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial on the effects of vinegar intake on the reduction of body fat in overweight men and women. The subjects were randomized to drink a daily beverage containing 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar a day, or a placebo-controlled group drinking a beverage developed to taste like the vinegar drink, but prepared with a different kind of acid, so they weren't actually getting any actual vinegar. 3 months in, the fake vinegar group continued to gain body fat, as overweight people tend to do over time, whereas the genuine vinegar group significantly lost body fat, as determined by CT scan. A little vinegar a day led to pounds of weight loss for just pennies a day without removing anything from their diets. That's why one of my 21 tweaks to accelerate weight loss is 2 teaspoons of vinegar with each meal, either sprinkled on a salad or just added to some tea with lemon juice or something. Just never drink vinegar straight because it can burn your esophagus. Now, the vinegar studies are nice because they're placebo-controlled, and that's hard to do with food. You can't stuff a cabbage into a capsule, but there are some foods so potent you could actually stuff it into a pill to pit it head-to-head against a placebo sugar pill, such as spices. Want to know if garlic can cause weight loss? We'll give people some garlic powder pills versus placebo pills, and garlic worked, resulting in a drop in waist lines and weight within 6 weeks. Now, they used a half teaspoon of garlic powder a day, which would cost less than 4 cents. 4 cents too steep? What about 2 cents? A quarter teaspoon of garlic powder a day. About 100 overweight men and women were randomized to a quarter teaspoon worth of garlic powder a day, or placebo. And those unknowing, taking the 2 cents worth of garlic powder a day, lost about 6 pounds of straight body fat over the next 15 weeks. Now, if you can splurge up to 3 cents a day, there's black cumin. A meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials show weight loss efficacy, again, just a quarter teaspoon a day. So, wait a second, what is black cumin? Well, you obviously have not been reading your Bibles. They're right in front of you, but still. Described as a miracle herb, besides the weight loss, there are randomized controlled trials showing daily black cumin consumption significantly improving cholesterol and triglycerides, significantly improving blood pressure and blood sugar control. But I use it just because it tastes good. It's just a spice. You just put it in a black pepper grinder and grind it like pepper. With more than 1,000 papers published in the medical literature on black cumin, some reporting extraordinary results, like dropping cholesterol levels as much as a statin drug. Why don't we hear more about it? Why wasn't I taught about it in medical school? Well, presumably because there's no profit motive, right? Black cumin is just a common natural spice. You're not going to thrill your stockholders selling something you can't patent that costs less than 3 cents a day. Or you could use regular cumin, acts as an appetite suppressant. Those randomized to a half teaspoon of both lunch and dinner over 3 months lost about 4 more pounds and an extra inch off their waist, found comparable to an obesity drug known as Orlistat. For those of you who forget, that's the anal leakage drug you may have heard about. Though the drug company apparently prefers the term fecal spotting for the rectal discharge it causes. But the drug company's website does offer some helpful tips, though. It's probably a smart idea to wear dark pants and bring a change of clothes with you to work. You know, just in case their drug causes you to crap your pants at work. I think I'll stick with the Cumin. Thank you very much. Cayenne pepper can counteract the metabolic slowing that accompanies weight loss and accelerate fat burning as a bonus. Ginger powder, over a dozen randomized controlled trials studying just a quarter teaspoon of ground ginger a day, showing significantly decreased weight loss for just pennies a day, proven in placebo-controlled trials to work, but no one's ever heard about this because they just can't make enough profit. If there was one piece of advice that best sums up my recommendations in my new book, it would be to wall off your calories. Let me explain what I mean by that. Animal cells are encased in cell membranes, which allow the enzymes in our gut to effortlessly liberate the calories within a steak, for example. Plant cells, on the other hand, have cell walls that are made out of fiber, which acts as an indigestible physical barrier, so many of the calories remain trapped. Now, processed plant foods, fruit juice, sugar, refined grains, even whole grains, if they've been powdered into flour, have had their cell walls cracked open, their cellular structure destroyed, and their calories are free for the taking. But when we eat structurally intact plant foods, chew all you want, you're still going to end up with calories completely encapsulated by fiber, which then blunts the glycemic impact, activates what's called the ileal brake, which dials down your appetite, and provides sustenance to your friendly flora. So, bottom line, try to make sure as many of your calories as possible, your protein, your carbs, your fat, are encased in cell walls. In other words, from whole, intact plant foods. That's what nature intended to happen millions of years before we learned how to sharpen spears or mill grains or boil sugar cane. Our entire physiology is presumed to have evolved in the context of eating what the rest of our great-aunt cousins eat, plants. The Paleolithic period, which is when we started using tools, only goes back about 2 million years. We and other great apes have been evolving since back in the Miocene era, more like 20 million years ago. So for the first 90% of our hominoid existence, our bodies evolved on mostly plants. It's no wonder then why our bodies may thrive best on the diet we were designed to eat. So maybe we should go back to our roots. With enough portion control, anyone can lose weight. Lock someone in a closet and force them to lose as much body fat as you want. Or, chaining someone to a treadmill could have a similar effect. But what's the most effective weight loss intervention that doesn't involve calorie restriction or exercise or felony? Well, I have scoured through the medical literature and all the randomized controlled trials, and the single most successful strategy to date is a diet of whole plant foods. The single most effective weight loss intervention like that ever published in the peer-reviewed scientific literature, a whole food, plant-based diet. Works better than anything else studied today. And no wonder, given what we just learned about the importance of walling off our calories. I mean, look, we've known for more than 40 years that those eating predominantly plant-based weigh on average about 30 pounds less than the general public. But you don't know if it's the diet itself until you put it to the test. In 2017, a group of New Zealand researchers published the BROAD study, a 12-week randomized controlled trial done in the poorest region of the country with the highest rates of obesity. Overweight individuals were randomized to receive either standard medical care or semi-weekly classes offering advice and encouragement to eat a low-fat diet centered around fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, and that's all it was. Just empowerment with knowledge. No meals were provided. The intervention group was merely informed about the benefits of plant-based eating and encouraged to fit into their own lives. No significant change in the control group, but the plant-based group, without any restrictions on portion sizes, being able to eat all the healthy foods they wanted, lost an average of 19 pounds by the end of the 3-month study. 19 pounds, that's a respectable weight loss. Yeah, but what happened next? After those 12 weeks, class was dismissed and no more instruction was given. But the researchers were curious to see how much weight they had then gained back after being released from the study. So everyone is invited back at the 6-month mark to get reweighed. Yes, the plant-based group left the study, the 3-month study, 19 pounds lighter, but after 6 months, they were only down about 27 pounds. They got even better. The plant-based group was feeling so good, both physically and mentally, were able to come off so many of their medications. They were sticking with the diet on their own, and the weight had continued to come off. Okay, what about a year later? Well, even in studies that last a whole year, where people are coached to stay on a particular diet the entire time, any pounds lost in the first few months tends to creep on back. But the broad study only lasted 3 months, yet after it was all over, those who've been randomized to the plant-based group not only lost dozens of pounds, they kept it all. They not only achieved greater weight loss in 6 to 12 months than any other comparable trial that was months after the study had already ended. A whole food plant-based diet achieved the greatest weight loss ever recorded compared to any other such intervention published in the medical literature. You can read the groundbreaking study in full for free at nature.com/article/NUTP2173, or you can just point your phone camera at the screen and pick off the QR code. Any diet that results in reduced calorie intake can result in weight loss. The dropping pounds isn't so much the issue. The problem is keeping them off. And a key difference between plant-based nutrition and more traditional approaches to weight loss is that people are encouraged to eat ad libitum, meaning eat as much as you want. No calorie counting, no portion control, just eating. The strategy is to improve the quality of food rather than restricting the quantity of food. If you put people on a diet packed with fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils, and allow them to eat as much as they want, they end up eating about 50% fewer calories than they might have otherwise. Just as full on half the calories. Wait a second, how do you keep people satisfied slashing more than 1,000 calories out of their daily diet? You do that by having them eat more high bulk, low calorie density foods, fruits. Oh, that's the 1,000 calories a day. High bulk, low calorie density foods, meaning fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and beans, and fewer calorie dense foods like the meats, cheeses, sugars, and fat. But it may not just all be on the calories in side of the equation. Those eating more plant-based appear to be effectively burning more calories in their sleep. The resting metabolic rate of those eating more plant-based may be 10% higher, more a boosted metabolism that can translate into burning off hundreds of calories a day more without doing a thing. Those eating more plant-based burn more calories just existing, just being alive. So no wonder why those eating more plant-based tend to be slimmer. Start packing your diet with real food that grows out of the ground. The pounds should come off naturally, taking you down towards your ideal weight. But what about ketogenic diets? Body fat loss actually slows down when you switch to ketogenic diet because your body starts cannibalizing its own protein. Just looking at the bathroom scale, though, the keto diet seems like a smashing success. losing less than probably on a regular diet to, boom, 3.5 pounds within 7 days after switching to keto. But what was happening inside their bodies told a totally different story. On the ketogenic diet, their rate of body fat loss was slowed by more than half. So most of what they were losing was water, but they were also losing lean mass, also losing protein. That may help explain why leg muscles of CrossFit trainees may shrink. A place on a ketogenic diet may shrink as much as 8% within 2 months. Exercise is supposed to make your muscles bigger, not smaller. Of course, even if keto diets worked, the goal of weight loss is not to fit into a skinnier casket. People whose diets even tend to trend that way appear to live significantly shorter lives. On the other hand, even just drifting in the direction of eating more whole, healthy plant foods is associated with living longer. Those going the other way, though, those who start out more plant-based but then add meat back to their diet once a week or more, not only appear to double or triple their odds of diabetes and stroke and heart disease and weight gain, but appear to suffer an associated 3.6-year drop in life expectancy. That's going from no meat to just once a week meat or more. Low-carb diets have been shown to impair artery function and worsen heart disease, whereas whole food plant-based diets have been shown to actually reverse heart disease, right? That's what Ornish used. So it appears to be the most effective weight loss diet. It also appears to be the only diet ever proven to reverse heart disease in the majority of patients. If my grandma didn't have to die like that, maybe no one's grandma has to die like that. I mean, if that's all a plant-based diet can do, reverse the #1 killer of men and women, shouldn't that gotta be the default diet to proven otherwise? In fact, it can also be so effective at preventing, arresting, or reversing other leading killers like type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, would seem to make the case for plant-based eating simply overwhelming. Only one diet has been shown to do all that, a diet centered around whole plant foods. We don't have to mortgage our health to lose weight. The single healthiest diet also appears to be the most effective diet for weight loss. After all, permanent weight loss requires permanent dietary change. Healthier habits just have to become a way of life. And if they're going to be lifelong, you want them to lead to a long life. Thankfully, the single best diet proven for weight loss may just so happen to be the safest, cheapest way to eat for the longest, healthiest life. Thank you.
Dr. Greger. Is it okay if our audience has a few questions? Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question for Dr. Greger, Dr. Sal will bring you a microphone. Please raise your hand.
Let's do it.
Unless we're all lifestyle medicine geniuses already. Oh, there's one back there. Thank you.
It's like Donahue. Look at that. Running back.
Hi, my name's Patty. My husband had pancreatic cancer, and on this diet, he lived 6.5 years.
Wow.
It was a great diet. I was on it with him, but I gained 10 pounds. I have an underactive thyroid. That's the only thing that I could think of where I gained weight on the whole foods plant-based diet.
Yeah, so having an underactive thyroid can cause you to gain weight on any kind of diet. So it's critically important that you get that. Well, first you see if you can treat the cause of why your thyroid gland is underactive in the first place. And if it's something like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, where the thyroid is scarred up, then you have to take thyroid hormone replacement therapy, like Synthroid, bring your thyroid function back up to a level where your weight loss can reflect your healthy diet.
Can you comment on intermittent fasting?
Oh boy, that's the biggest chapter in my new book. Because there's so many different kinds. There's alternate day fasting, 5-2 fasting, 25-5, water only fasting, fasting mimicking diets, time restricted feeding. Bottom line, spoiler alert, The best data is for early time restricted feeding. So winnowing one's eating window to 12 hours or less, but then critically important earlier in the day. So if anything, we're skipping dinner, not breakfast, and we should kind of weigh our calories toward the beginning of the day where they count less. It's remarkable that a snack eaten at night is literally more fattening than the exact same snack eaten earlier in the day. So the fewer calories after sundown, the better. Breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pump.
Dr. Greger, I just had a quick question. Maybe not a brand, but is there a vitamin B12 supplement that you most highly recommend?
Yes, there is, and that is any brand that is USP certified. So there's a third-party verification system, which will put a little USP, little shield on the supplement bottle itself. And all that guarantees is that what's in the bottle is what's on the label. So, it doesn't mean it's good for you. I mean, the USP can certify poison and be like, yeah, the poison in the pill is the poison on the bottle. But at least you're getting the poison you paid for, right? But look, when it's something critically important, like vitamin B12, you want to make sure you're actually getting it. They're not just filling it with something. So there's a number of brands, Nature's Best or Nature's Made, something like that. Kirkland Signature. There's a couple. So you just look, and on the bottle it should have a little USB label.
Okay, Dr. Greger, thank you for coming and all the work that you've done over the years. Can you tell me, a person who has osteoporosis, who's on a whole food plant-based diet, what can they do to increase their calcium absorption?
Well, presumably it's not a calcium absorption issue. Osteoporosis is a disuse atrophy disease. I mean, basically the same reason we get osteoporosis is the same reason that astronauts lose about 2% of their skeletal mass every month in space. It's, use it or lose it. Right? It's like when you have a cast on your arm and your muscles atrophy away. The reason that happens is because your body's like, look, I'm not going to waste all this energy making your muscle if you're not going to use it. I've got better things to do with my time. And the same thing with skeletal strength. If you're going to sit on the couch all day, your body's like, what am I doing making a skeleton? People think of a skeleton as just kind of an inanimate structure, but no, it's a growing, living, breathing, bleeding organ, like the rest of our organs, and it's constantly being remade. Our entire body's constantly being torn down, remade, and it'll make our muscles as big as they need to be to lift whatever weights you're going to lift. It'll make our skeleton as strong as it needs to be to take care of all your weight-bearing exercise. But if you're not doing weight-bearing exercise, particularly if you're skinny, you're light, you're just not putting a lot of weight on your bones. So yes, you need a minimum amount of bone-building nutrients like calcium and vitamin D, but you can eat all the calcium you want if your body's not going to put it in your bones because it doesn't think it needs to put it in your bones. So, an hour a day weight-bearing exercise, 7 days a week. You can wear a weight vest when you're just walking around the house. You can wear a backpack when you go out. We want to put weight on our bones. And then all of a sudden your body's like, oh my God, I just gained 30 pounds. Quick, I gotta make a really strong skeleton. And that's what we want.
So I was wondering, if you're in good health, can you still use the 21 tweaks?
If you're in good health, can you still use the 21 tweaks? So just as a reminder, the 21 tweaks are used to complement my daily dozen. So in the first book, How Not to Die, the first half of the book is just 15 chapters, and each of the 15 leading causes of death talk about the role of diet. We play preventing, arresting, reversing each of our top 15 killers. That's the first half of the book. The second half of the book, so I didn't want it to just be a reference book, I wanted to be a practical guide on making kind of day-to-day grocery store type decisions. I center my recommendations around this daily dozen checklist of all the healthiest of healthy foods. I encourage people to fit into their diet like, greens every day, the healthiest vegetables, berries every day, the healthiest fruits, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, a quarter teaspoon of turmeric, beverages, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So the new book, How Not to Die, in addition to eating healthy to prevent, arrest, and reverse chronic disease, are there little tips and tricks we can do to accelerate the loss of body fat. Now, just eating healthy should take you down to ideal weight, like we saw in that chart. But if you're farther out on the bell curve, or if you want to get there quicker, or you're just not satisfied, well, there's things you can do to push it even further, like the garlic powder, the ginger powder, these things, where it's like, regardless, if you're sprinkling your ginger powder on your Big Mac, you still lose more weight. I mean, it's not what I recommend, but, you know, these are, okay. So, so that's the 21 tweaks, and so it's on a free, let me see, I think it's actually, I have it on a free, there we go. A free app called Dr. Gary's Daily Dozen on iPhone and Android. And so now there's a weight loss toggle mode. So if you're just interested in chronic disease, you just stick with the Daily Dozen. But if you want to go to weight loss mode, also the 21 tweaks pop up. And so you can go through those. Is there any reason to do that if you are healthy? It depends if you're overweight. Now, you could argue that being overweight, you're by definition not healthy, in which case the 21 tweaks would help. But there's no reason to go out of your way to do the 21 tweaks if you are indeed at your ideal body weight, though I would define ideal body weight as a BMI between 20 and 22, which is really quite slim, and not just the normal 20 to 25 range. And I go through the book of the evidence supporting that recommendation.
Dr. Sal, we have one here, and then we'll take two more after that. Thank you.
Hi, my question is about tofu. I know it's very high in protein, but the negative effect of the additional estrogen, specifically for women.
Sure. I mean, so the only downside of tofu is that it's a processed food. You're missing some of the fiber, some of the minerals. I encourage people to eat whole soy foods, such as edamame, the immature green soybean in the pod itself, or a can of soybeans. There's canned soybeans, just like there's canned other beans. Or miso, edamame, tempeh. You can actually see tempeh is like tofu, but you can see the individual soybeans in there. It's a whole soy food. But in terms of this phytoestrogens in soy, people hear the word estrogens, they get concerned. But it turns out that the phytoestrogens in soy have pro-estrogenic effects on some tissues in the body, such as increasing skeletal strength for osteoporosis. So increases bone mineral density. It relieves hot flashes. Probably the reason why in Japan, in the Japanese language, there was no word for hot flashes. They have the highest tofu consumption per capita anywhere in the world. But it has anti-estrogenic effects in other tissues, such as breast tissue, reducing one's risk of breast cancer. Those who eat soy foods like tofu have between 30 to 50% lower risk of developing breast cancer, particularly when starting in one's teens. And now we have about a half a dozen studies on breast cancer survivors, and found that in general, women with breast cancer who eat soy tend to live longer and have lower cancer recurrence rates, and that's for women with estrogen receptor positive or negative tumors, women on tamoxifen, not on tamoxifen, with BRCA genes or not. And so the recommendation is now switching to go out of your way to eat soy for women with breast cancer. And I have a video that explains how the same molecule could have different effects, and it depends on a ratio of alpha to beta estrogen receptors. Kind of a fascinating story. If you're interested in more, you can check that out.
All right, I'm not intimating that you're of any particular age, but you're familiar with the test that the doctors recommend after the age of 50? Colonoscopy?
Yeah.
So the prep that they recommend is not necessarily whole food plant-based. What is your recommendation to,
Yes, if you want to clean out your colon, that's like the opposite. Whole food plant-based, right? We want to fill our colon every day. So it's critically important to get colon cancer screened starting at age 50. You say, wait, and it's funny, I get these questions saying, well, wait a second, yeah, but I eat whole food plant-based, I eat super healthy. Do I really need to get colon cancer screened? You particularly have to get colon cancer screened because we expect you to live so long. It's that much more critical to catch a cancer early. That's why we stop cancer screening at age 70 or later, because by then, who cares if we find you? You're not going to live very much longer anyway. You're going to drop dead of a heart attack, so who cares if you find a cancer, and cut it out, you're going to die from something else. But you maybe, if you're healthy, you're not going to die of, you get your LDL low enough, you're not going to die of heart disease. You're going to live a long, healthy life. Even more critically important to catch an early cancer, to get rid of it. So that's why cancer screening is even more important the healthier you eat and live. However, we are one of the few countries on the planet that actually defaults to colonoscopy, and there's good data to suggest that sigmoidoscopy and or this kind of stool testing can be just as effective, according to the latest Cochrane review. So I do encourage colon cancer screening, but it need not be colonoscopy. There are other options. I have a whole series of videos on talking about what those options are and the pros versus cons.
Last question.
Hello, thank you Dr. Greger for being here. I'm the president of the Vegan Club at Florida Gulf Coast University, and I have a question that is very pressing to college students. So at our club, in our community on campus, we have a lot of people that just began a plant-based diet, and they find safe haven in all these new vegan, meats and plant-based, like frozen dinners and all this stuff. So my question for you is how long or how little should people subsist on those types of foods, and do you think it's doing good or it's doing harm?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. That is the demographic, right? So when I go around speaking to younger audiences, so many of them are starting to eat healthier because of concern over the environment, concern over the climate, concern over animals, not necessarily their health. And so, yes, they go vegan, but they go vegan by subsisting off of French fries and beer, right? And then they discover Oreos are vegan, then, God, all right. Okay, not. So you can eat a miserably unhealthy vegan diet. That's why I prefer the term whole food plant-based, right? Because then vegan just tells me what you don't eat. As a physician, just tells me what you don't eat. I'm interested, wait a second, do you actually eat vegetables? And so that's what, so that it's critically important. Some of the worst food on the planet, right? Coca-Cola, strictly vegan, right? Cotton candy, right? Potato chips, and there's terrible foods that don't have animals in it, and yes, you can argue greenhouse gases and all these other things, but strictly from a health standpoint, we really should the more whole plant foods, the better. In fact, you can imagine someone who, once in a while has a Sunday roast or something, but the rest of the time, kind of a flexitarian, being much healthier than the strictest of strict vegan who's checking their Oreo ingredients list to make sure that it doesn't got something in it, right? But, I see these new, like the Beyond Burger and Impossible Burger, and there's, every fast food chain, in KFC, is launching this new, they're all, jumping on the bandwagon. And what that shows to me is this cultural surge, this shift in interest towards plant-based eating. The fact that they're scrambling to put something on their menu, that Burger King is advertising, 100% wafer, 0% beef. They're boasting, our new burger, no beef at all, come get it. So when I see that, I'm not thinking, oh, that's the healthiest thing, but I'm thinking that just shows that the progress we are making. And so I see these foods as transition foods, right? Stepping stone foods. I just don't want people to stall there. But, not everyone can go kale and quinoa overnight. We want to, move people down that path. And so I love that these products are available, but I want people to keep moving to include as many fruits and vegetables as they possibly can. Thank you so much.